My beloved brothers and sisters, every single one of us faces challenges in life. Sometimes they come like waves, one after the other. Sometimes they come like a storm, fast, furious, and unexpected. There are moments we feel overwhelmed, moments we feel broken, moments when it seems like the darkness around us will never lift. And yet, in the middle of that chaos, there is something that keeps a believer standing. It is not wealth, it is not power, it is not connections or status, it is faith. When faith becomes your strength, you begin to look at the same storm with a different heart. The winds may howl, the clouds may darken, but inside you there is light. A light that comes from knowing that your Lord is watching, listening, and in control. When faith becomes your strength, you are no longer alone. You are never truly lost, because your compass is your connection with your Creator. When we speak of strength in this world, we often think of muscles, money, or might. We look at the outside, how powerful someone appears, how loud their voice is, how influential they seem to be in the eyes of others. But true strength is not always visible. It does not always roar. Sometimes true strength lies in silence, in patience, in surrender. And there is no greater strength than a heart that places its complete reliance upon its Maker. When the heart finds its comfort in Allah, it is never shattered by the losses of this world. When the heart attaches itself to the one who never disappoints, it becomes unbreakable, no matter how many times life tries to crush it. This is a truth we often forget. We become so consumed by our surroundings, by our circumstances, by people's opinions and worldly outcomes that we begin to think our peace comes from them. We say, if I had more money, I'd be at ease. Or, if this person treated me better, I wouldn't feel so broken. But the reality is, if your heart is depending on anything or anyone other than Allah, you will be let down. People can love you today and abandon you tomorrow. Wealth can comfort you now and vanish the next moment. Health can be strong today and weaken tomorrow, but the heart that rests in the remembrance of its Lord, that heart has found the only true anchor in a sea of waves. When you rely on Allah, truly and fully, your heart becomes content even when your hands are empty. That is because your heart is filled with certainty that your Lord knows, your Lord sees, your Lord is in control, and your Lord never wrongs. You walk through fire with that kind of heart and you come out purified, not burnt. You walk through pain with that kind of heart and you come out healed, not broken. Because your strength is not coming from your situation, it is coming from your faith. Think about the companions who stood by the Prophet during times of difficulty. They had very little in terms of this world. They were boycotted, abused, driven out of their homes, yet they stood firm. Why? Because their hearts were stronger than the attacks around them. They had something the world could not take away from them. Unshakable belief in their Lord. Their faith didn't prevent the pain, but it gave them purpose through the pain. And with that purpose, they grew stronger. The same sword that was raised to harm them became the means by which Islam spread to the farthest corners of the earth. This is what happens when your reliance is on the Creator, not the creation. Sometimes in life, we face situations where we feel helpless. Nothing we do seems to change the outcome. We try to fix a broken relationship, but it keeps falling apart. We try to earn a living, but the doors keep closing. We try to find peace, but our minds remain restless. This is where we must pause and ask ourselves, where is my heart leaning? Who am I really trusting? Because when you lean on people, you get disappointed. When you lean on wealth, you get anxious. But when you lean on Allah, you get peace. This doesn't mean that we sit back and do nothing. Islam teaches us to take action, to tie our camel, to work hard and make effort. But the strength of the believer is not in their actions alone. It is in their reliance upon Allah. After the action, you do your part and you leave the rest to Him. That's where peace comes from. That's where strength is born. It's not the size of your problem. It's the size of your trust in the one who can solve it. And if your heart says, my Lord is with me, even the mountain in front of you becomes small. There are people walking this earth who have lost everything, parents, children, health, wealth, but they still walk with dignity, they still smile, they still inspire. And people wonder, how are they so strong? It's because they didn't let the loss define them. They let their faith strengthen them. Their hearts broke in sujood, not in despair. Their tears fell before the most merciful, not before people. And their strength came from knowing that nothing is taken away except that something better is prepared in return, either in this life or the next. Let's reflect on our own lives. How often have we panicked when things didn't go our way? How often have we complained when things got delayed? And yet, if we truly believed that Allah's plan is always better, we would have remained calm. The one who believes in qadr, in divine decree, walks through life with a quiet confidence. Not arrogance, not pride, but serenity. Because they know that what missed them was never meant for them, and what reached them could never have missed them. That belief alone turns fear into strength. That belief turns trials into stepping stones. A heart that relies on Allah does not seek validation from people. It does not live for likes or fear their disapproval. That heart is content because it knows it is seen by the one who knows even the thoughts we hide. Such a heart doesn't fear being alone because it is never truly alone. The one who has Allah as his companion never walks in darkness. Even in solitude, he feels surrounded. Even in silence, he feels heard. And even in waiting, he feels hope. One of the most beautiful qualities of a heart filled with faith is patience. Not the kind of patience where you grit your teeth and suffer silently, but the kind where you smile because you trust the outcome. You know that every delay has wisdom. Every hardship has a purpose. Every difficulty is preparing you for something better. That kind of patience is not weakness, it is strength. It is the strength to stay calm when the world is screaming. The strength to forgive when your heart wants revenge. The strength to keep going when everything in you wants to give up. Now think about this. When you kneel before your Lord, you are not lowering yourself, you are rising. You are not humbling yourself before a creation, you are connecting with the source of all power. That act of sujood, that moment when your forehead touches the ground, is the moment when your soul is the closest it will ever be in this world to its creator, and that closeness gives you strength. You walk away from that prayer, not weaker, but stronger. You face the same problem with a renewed perspective. Because now your reliance is not on what you can do, your reliance is on what Allah can do. And there is no limit to what He can do. So many times in life we feel like we're losing control. And that's exactly the point. We were never meant to be in control. We were meant to submit. And in that submission lies true strength. That is why the word Islam itself means submission, not weakness, not defeat, but surrender to the one who knows better. And in that surrender we find the peace that eludes the most powerful people on earth. The kings and queens of this world may have palaces, but many cannot sleep at night because their strength is built on things that can be taken away. But the believer whose strength comes from faith, he can sleep with peace even on the floor because his heart is with his Lord. Let us never underestimate the power of a dua whispered in the darkness. That one moment of sincerity when your heart breaks before Allah can change your entire life. It can open doors you didn't even know existed. It can heal wounds you thought would never close. It can bring joy in the most unexpected ways. And all of that happens because you placed your trust in the most merciful. That is the secret. That is the treasure. The one who truly understands this lives differently. He doesn't rush what is meant to take time. He doesn't envy others for what they have. He doesn't crumble under pressure. Because he knows deep in his soul that his sustenance is written, his path is guided, and his ending is in the hands of the one who is most just and most kind. That knowledge turns ordinary people into extraordinary believers. It turns weak hearts into fortresses of strength. And this strength is not just for hardship. Even in ease, faith gives you discipline. It reminds you that the blessings you enjoy are a test too. It keeps you humble when you are praised. It keeps you grateful when you are gifted. It keeps you grounded when the world tries to lift you too high. Because faith teaches you that all of it, every breath, every blessing, every step is from Allah. And just as He gave it, He can take it. So your reliance remains on Him, not on what He gave. When a person kneels before Allah, truly and sincerely, he becomes fearless. Not reckless, but fearless. He fears no creation because he fears the Creator. He doesn't compromise his values for approval. He doesn't change his principles for popularity. His strength comes from knowing that pleasing Allah is the ultimate success. And that even if the whole world turns against him, he is not alone as long as his Lord is with him. This is the strength we should seek. Not the strength to control everything, but the strength to trust the one who controls it all. Not the strength to never fall, but the strength to rise every time we fall. Not the strength to never cry, but the strength to cry only to the one who can heal us. That is the strength of faith. That is the power of a heart that relies on Allah. And that, my brothers and sisters, is a strength no one can take away. There are moments in life when words fail us. The weight in our hearts becomes too heavy to describe, the pain too deep to explain. We look for someone to understand, someone to listen, someone to simply be there, but even when surrounded by people, we can feel alone. In such moments, our hearts speak a language of their own. They speak through silence, through tears, through sighs that no one hears but Allah. And it is in these very moments when you feel like no one sees your struggle that your cries are actually rising higher than ever before. The silent tears that fall in your sujood, the unspoken du'as whispered in the stillness of the night, these are not wasted. These are the tears that water the seeds of your hope, the tears that soften the soil of your heart, preparing it for the mercy that is yet to come. You see, the tears shed in prayer are not a sign of weakness. They are a sign of connection. They are a sign that your heart is still alive, that your soul is still aware, that your belief in the most merciful is still intact. It takes a strong person to weep before their Lord, not because of defeat, but because of recognition. Recognition that only He can bring comfort. Only He understands. Only He can heal. When the heart bows before Him, it rises stronger. When the eyes cry to Him, they begin to see more clearly. And when the soul pours itself out to Him, it begins to taste the sweetness of relief even before the circumstances change. Many people think that crying is a sign of despair, but in truth, crying to Allah is a form of hope. It means you believe someone is listening. It means you believe someone can help. It means you are still holding on, even if by a thread. Remember the Prophet of Allah, when he lost his son, tears flowed from his blessed eyes, yet he said, the heart grieves, the eyes shed tears. But we only say that which pleases our Lord. This teaches us that faith and sadness can coexist. It is not a contradiction to be hurt and faithful at the same time. In fact, faith gives you a place to carry your pain, a place to channel your emotions, a safe refuge where even your silence is heard and your tears are recorded. We live in a world that tells us to hide our pain, to always smile, to keep moving no matter what. But our faith teaches us to pause, to reflect, to cry when we need to, and to turn that cry into a prayer. There is no shame in showing your vulnerability before your Creator. In fact, the more humble you are before Him, the more elevated you become in His eyes. Every tear you shed for His sake is stored with Him. Every moment you spend pouring your heart out to Him in frustration, fear, or longing, not one of those moments is forgotten. He is Al-Sami, the all-hearing. He is Al-Basir, the all-seeing. He knows the tear before it falls, the sigh before it escapes your lips, the pain before you even realize it yourself. What is even more beautiful is that sometimes the greatest transformations in our lives begin with a single sincere tear. That tear may open the doors of guidance, forgiveness, or clarity. That tear may be the beginning of healing from something you thought would destroy you. That tear may be what brings your heart back to where it belongs, close to the remembrance of Allah. Sometimes In our lowest moments, we find our highest point of connection with our Lord. And this is a mercy in disguise. We are told in the Quran that Allah is closer to us than our jugular vein. So how can we ever feel that our tears go unnoticed? How can we think that our prayers are not heard? The doors of the heavens open for the sincere supplication. The angels carry your words. Even your silence is understood by the one who knows what the hearts conceal. So never underestimate the value of those moments in the darkness when it's just you and your Lord. Those are not moments of weakness. Those are moments of profound strength. When you understand this, then you begin to realize that faith does not remove hardship. It does not make the pain vanish. But what it does do is transform the pain into a purpose. It takes the hardship and elevates it. It doesn't change the situation immediately, but it changes how you handle the situation. It puts strength in your steps, patience in your voice, and light in your heart, even if everything around you seems dark. That is the power of faith. Trials are not a sign that Allah is angry with you. Sometimes they are a sign that He loves you, because it is often through difficulty that we become purified. It is through loss that we learn detachment from the dunya. It is through heartbreak that we rediscover the only one who never breaks our hearts. If everything in life was smooth, we might forget our purpose. We might forget our need for prayer. We might start relying on ourselves or others or the world and forget the creator of it all. But a trial wakes us up. It shakes us, not to break us, but to direct us. It removes the distractions, clears the fog, and pushes us back to the one who is always there. It is important to know that faith doesn't mean you will never feel fear. It doesn't mean you will never feel anxious or sad. Even the prophets felt afraid. Even the righteous cried. But the difference is what they did with those emotions. They didn't let them paralyze them. They didn't let them control their decisions. Instead, they turned to Allah with those feelings. They made dua. They stayed steadfast. They trusted that behind every difficulty there is wisdom. And that wisdom may not be understood now, but it will be made clear either in this life or the next. That trust is what gives a believer strength, not the absence of pain, but the presence of faith during the pain. When you find yourself in a situation where everything seems to be going wrong, remember that you are not defined by the test. You are defined by your response to the test, and your response is shaped by your faith. Do you run to the dunya for answers, or do you run to Allah? Do you fall into despair, or do you fall into sujood? Do you panic, or do you pause and pray? The answer to these questions will determine whether your faith is a source of strength or just a claim on your tongue. One of the most remarkable things about true faith is that it can make you walk through fire without being burnt. Not because the fire is gone, but because your heart is protected. Think about the story of Prophet Ibrahim. He was thrown into the fire, a blazing fire created to destroy him. But what happened? Allah commanded the fire to be cool and peaceful for him. This is what happens when you place your complete trust in your Lord. The circumstances around you may not change, but you change within those circumstances, and that internal change is what brings peace. Faith teaches us that even when we don't understand why something is happening, we can still trust the one who is in control. We can say, Ya Allah, I don't understand this trial, but I know you are wise. That level of trust gives you the ability to carry on when everything around you tells you to give up. It is the reason why some people, despite facing immense hardship, still radiate peace. Their hearts are not empty. They are full of trust. They have handed their burdens to the one who never sleeps. And so they sleep in peace. Faith does not mean you will never struggle. It means that your struggle will never be in vain. Every tear, every sleepless night, every aching moment, it is all counted, it is all seen. And not only is it seen, but it is rewarded. Every time you choose to respond with patience, every time you hold your tongue from complaint, every time you raise your hands in dua, instead of giving in to despair, you are being strengthened. You are being elevated. You are being prepared for something greater. This is why the believer does not break under pressure. He may bend, he may cry, he may feel overwhelmed, but he always rises again because he knows that strength is not in having an easy life. Strength is in remaining firm when life is hard. Strength is in returning to Allah again and again, even when your heart is tired. Strength is in trusting the process, even when you can't see the outcome. And remember, it is not a sign of weakness to admit that you are struggling. It is not wrong to feel broken, but the key is to take that brokenness to the one who can mend you. Don't let your pain push you away from your prayers. Let it pull you deeper into them. Don't let your tears dry without letting them fall for the sake of Allah. Because those tears, those sincere, quiet, private tears, they are more powerful than you realize. They can open the doors of mercy, soften the hardest hearts, and bring light into the darkest places. Life is full of distractions. Every day we are pulled in countless directions: work, school, family, society, responsibilities, expectations, desires, ambitions. The world has become so fast-paced that even when we are alone, our minds are racing. We scroll through our devices without purpose. We fill our days with endless tasks, and we go to bed exhausted without feeling truly fulfilled. And in all this chaos, what often gets pushed aside is the very thing our soul needs most: the remembrance of Allah. The heart longs for peace, but how can it find peace if it is disconnected from the source of peace? How can we expect inner calm when we have turned away from the very one who created the calm? The truth is, nothing brings more contentment, more clarity, more direction in life than being close to the one who fashioned our hearts, because he knows exactly what we need. The beauty of sincere worship lies not in the quantity but in the quality. A single moment of deep, heartfelt connection with Allah can nourish the soul more than hours of empty rituals. When you remember Him with your heart, not just your tongue, you begin to feel a lightness in your chest. The burdens of the world don't disappear, but they suddenly feel lighter. The problems are still there, but your ability to handle them increases. Your perspective shifts. You no longer feel alone in your struggles because you know that the most merciful is with you. You begin to realize that remembrance is not just a spiritual exercise, it is a lifeline. It is what keeps you grounded, focused, and emotionally balanced. It reminds you of what truly matters, and it helps you let go of what doesn't. The Quran teaches us that in the remembrance of Allah, hearts find rest, not in wealth, not in fame, not in success, not in relationships, but in His remembrance. This tells us something profound. It tells us that if we feel unsettled, if we feel anxious, if we feel empty, the solution is not always to change the outside world. Sometimes the solution is to look within and ask, when was the last time I truly remembered my Lord? When was the last time I sat in silence, away from the noise, and just reflected on His names, His blessings, His mercy? When was the last time I cried in sujood, not because I wanted something, but because I missed that closeness? The sweetness of faith can only be tasted when the heart is soft, and the heart softens through sincere worship. Prayer is not just a series of movements, it is a conversation, a connection. A moment where you leave the world behind and stand before your Creator. When you recite His words in your prayer, let them enter your heart. When you bow and place your head on the ground, let it be a moment of surrender, let it be a moment of peace. That is when you begin to taste the true sweetness of faith, when your worship is no longer a burden but a privilege. When you look forward to salah, not because it is an obligation, but because it is a relief, a source of strength, a time to recharge your soul. But we must also be aware that this sweetness is not something that comes automatically. It requires effort. Just like you need to cultivate a relationship with someone you love, you must also cultivate your relationship with Allah. It begins with intention, it grows with consistency, and it blossoms with sincerity. The more you turn to Him, the more you feel His presence in your life. The more you remember Him in private, the more peace you experience in public. The more you rely on Him, the less you rely on people. And the less you rely on people, the freer your heart becomes. It is in this freedom that you truly begin to live, because when your heart is connected to the eternal, you are no longer enslaved by the temporary. The moments of quiet dhikr, the times you say Alhamdulillah, even when you're struggling, the astaghfirullah that escapes your lips after a mistake, The subhanallah. You say when you see something beautiful, all of these are not just words. They are reminders, anchors. Each one pulls you back to the reality that Allah is near, that He is watching over you, that He has not forgotten you. And when you start building your life around these reminders, you start living with purpose. Your days are no longer empty. Even the small acts, smiling, being kind, helping someone, all become acts of worship when done with the right intention. And this brings us to something even more powerful. When your connection with Allah becomes strong, it reflects in every part of your life. It reflects in how you treat people, in how you deal with hardship, in how you handle success, in how you carry yourself. The stronger your bond with Him, the more humble you become, because you realize that everything you have is from Him. Your knowledge, your skills, your wealth, your health, none of it is truly yours. It is all a trust. And this humility protects you from arrogance, from jealousy, from comparison. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself to the world because you are focused on pleasing the one who created the world. And when you begin to taste this sweetness, it becomes addictive. You crave it. You miss it when you slip. And even when you fall into sin, as all humans do, you find your way back through sincere repentance. Because the heart that has tasted closeness to Allah can never be satisfied with distance. It longs to return. It longs to be cleansed. And this longing is a mercy. It is a sign that your heart is still alive, still aware, still hopeful. But we must also be mindful that the world is full of distractions that can numb this longing. We are constantly bombarded with images, ideas, and influences that pull us away from our purpose. If we're not careful, our hearts can become hardened. We begin to feel distant from Allah. Our prayers become rushed. Our du'as become infrequent. Our sins no longer make us feel regret. And this is a dangerous place to be, because when the heart becomes hard, it becomes blind. It stops recognizing truth. It stops feeling guilt. It becomes satisfied with the dunya and forgets the akhirah. And when that happens, even the biggest blessings feel empty. So we must guard our hearts. We must surround ourselves with reminders, with good company, with beneficial knowledge, with consistent acts of worship, even small ones, a few pages of Quran a day, a few minutes of reflection, a regular dua. These things may seem small, but they build up. They protect the heart from rusting. They keep the soul nourished. And over time, they transform you from within. You begin to notice a calmness, a contentment, a resilience, not because life got easier, but because you became stronger, more anchored, more focused. And it is this inner strength that allows you to remain firm when trials come, because they will come. Life will test you. There will be moments of loss, of confusion, of pain. But if your connection with Allah is strong, you will not be shaken. You will not be broken. You may cry, you may struggle, but your foundation will remain intact. And this is the beauty of sincere worship. It builds a foundation that cannot be moved. A foundation based on love, trust, and reliance upon the one who never abandons his servants. Never belittle your efforts to draw closer to Him. Never think that your small acts of worship don't matter. Every step you take towards Him, He comes closer to you. Every tear you shed for His sake is recorded. Every sincere dua you make is heard. And even if you don't see the results immediately, know that they are coming in His perfect timing, in His perfect way. And when they do, you will look back and realize that every moment of sincere worship, every act of remembrance, every time you chose faith over desire, it was all worth it. It brought you here. It shaped you. It saved you. And when you reach that place of sweetness, protect it, cherish it, nourish it, because the world will continue to try and distract you. But as long as you keep returning to Allah, you will never be lost. As long as you keep remembering Him, your heart will never be truly empty. And as long as you keep your soul connected to Him, you will always have strength, even when life is hard, even when people disappoint you, even when you feel like giving up. That connection will keep you going. It will keep you alive. It will keep you grounded. And in the end, that connection is what matters most. Because everything else will fade. But the soul that remembers its Lord will remain steady, fulfilled, and full of light. So let your faith be your strength. Let it guide your steps, guard your tongue, and purify your heart. Let it be the reason you stand again after every fall. Let it be your light in the darkest nights and your anchor in the strongest winds. And remember, the one who brought you this far will never abandon you now. Hold on, keep going. And let your faith carry you, because with it you are never weak. You are stronger than you ever imagined.